Hey there, it's Kat Kinsman, Executive Features Editor at Food & Wine, and this fall, we're launching the new Food & Wine Classic in Charleston with our partners at Southern Living and Travel + Leisure, and we want to see you there. Join us September 27th through the 29th to learn from iconic chefs, share a glass with innovative wine experts, and experience Charleston with one-of-a-kind events. Tickets are on sale now at foodandwine.com/Charleston Classic. That's foodandwine.com/Charleston Classic. See you down in Charleston.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
Westholme is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Westholme believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes, finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Hello and welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm your host, Darren. It's Thursday, August 22nd, and we lost an absolute legend today. Our love and hearts go to Justin and his family and friends. He was an absolute magical person, one-of-a-kind friend, and we spent so many nights in Brooklyn together, and my world, our world, really just opened up in such a completely different way thanks to his generosity and friendships and the little doors he opened for us and the stories he had to share. It feels like we sat down and chatted with him about everything from food to music. And I still remember seeing him play when I was in high school, when he played at the 4040 with Turing Machine. And I had no idea that years later he would become such a close friend and such a big influence in my life. So we put together 2 episodes today honoring both his legacy in music and food. Justin, you will be forever missed and forever loved, and we raise a glass of natural wine in your honor wherever you are. And anytime I'm in a restaurant in Paris with a good wine list and great food and a fun vibe, I'll always think of you. So welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Justin, second time?
Second time?
Scott, first time?
First time.
First time guest, no time listener?
No, I listened to. I think I listened to Justin's show. So
okay.
You know.
And
it is known as my show.
Yeah. And can we send a big shout out to Mama Bresnitz and Papa Bresnitz? Happy anniversary yesterday.
Oh, yeah, happy
Mom,
Yeah. 34 years.
34 years. But Mom, who's in the kitchen right now cooking Passover dinner, which we are going to hop in the car after this and drive to Philly.
Sweet.
And eat gefilte fish. So how long have you two known each other?
1991, so 22 years, I guess.
Jesus.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of nuts.
And why don't you run through the projects you've worked together?
Can we talk about how they met? We'll get there.
We've been in 2 bands together, like 2 real bands that have made records. First band was in D.C. called Pitch Blend. That's Pitch Blend, one word with an E at the end. And
I didn't realize there was another spelling.
Basically, every time you tell someone what band you're in, you'd have to add that to it. Yeah. And then we moved to New York kind of within a few months of each other.
Yeah,
and
I moved in December 94, and you moved, what, January, February
March,
95?
March 95.
March 95.
And then late 90s, we started a band called Turing Machine, which is always kind of meant to be more of a project than a full-time band, and put up 3 records in Turing Machine and 3 records in Pitch Blend.
And currently you guys do what now?
I was a wine buyer at a retail shop for about 8 years, and now I'm a partner in a wine importing company with my friend Zev Rovine and my friend Laurent Bombois. And we sell wine to retail and restaurants in New York City and to other distributors in America.
Is it? I heard it's a law that you need to have some guy named Laurent if you're going to do a wine business in the States.
We got a good Laurent, too, so we kind of lucked out.
A nice vintage one?
Yeah.
He's handsome. smart, speaks great English.
And he's from the Laurent region, right?
He's from the he lives next to the Laurent River.
Nice.
And Scott?
I came to New York and kind of stumbled into a magazine career, writing, editing, and now I am at Bon Appetit magazine, special projects editor, just kind of a title we kind of made up. But
those are the best kinds.
Give an example of a special project.
Well, we have an iPad edition, and I'm the editorial overseer of that. And then what else? Special project, website.
An official bearer of salsa.
Oh yes, I brought a couple things off the free table. A can of salsa.
Thank you.
You keep iterating that it's free. Like you want to.
We got it. You didn't spend a dime on us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good, guys. We couldn't have told you episode 150 enough to hint at like gifts, champagne.
I took
prizes.
a couple things off the expensive table.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you.
I feel so good.
So take it out of his paycheck.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. How did young whippersnapper Justin and young scuttlebutt Scott meet?
91.
91.
91. I was playing, sort of making recordings with my friend who I worked in a record store with. And
Hold on. 91, DC working in a record store?
I know, hard to believe.
How much black or plaid were you wearing at the time?
I think I was wearing a fair amount of grunge chic, which is looking out at the crowd at Roberta's pretty much the same gear.
It's a 20-year cycle.
Exactly, it's true. We put back then, no internet, no nothing like that. So we put an ad in the newspaper before like in the free alt weekly, before the back pages were just ads for prostitutes.
No,
there would actually be ads.
Before it got good.
Yeah,
before it got real good.
So Scott and another guy answered, and we ended up, it actually worked. Like we got together and jammed, and the first time we played, I think we wrote like 3 or 4 of the songs that were on our first record.
Who's the other guy?
There's a guy named Pat Goff that was a drummer, and the guy I was playing with is named Triops Trafid.
And what are Pat and Triops doing?
Triops is a visual artist in L.A., and I don't know. What's Pat do?
Pat works for a transportation think tank in D.C. and plays in a band called Imperial China.
That's true.
So you guys all have you're not dead.
No.
Yeah.
We're closer to it, but
Yeah.
we are not.
Yeah, so you guys survived. And so take us through Pitch Plan. What happened?
I mean, it was such a fun time. It was the indie rock time. I mean, that was right around the time everybody figured out that you could put out your own music. So lots of people, there were just tons of bands, tons of records. People were very excited. There wasn't a huge commercial. The independent scene wasn't really commercial. So at that time, if we wanted to go on tour in October, we'd start calling people in August, maybe even September, and book like a 2 or 3 week tour and go.
Did you just have like a notebook of just like guys? Yeah.
And then we got a booking agent later. But when it started,
I
just
think
pop a 7-inch in the mail and somebody'd call you back.
And you would at that time, Maximum Rock and Roll had the book your own. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah. Book your own
fucking life. And that actually, I think the second tour we may have used that, but the first one I remember just Justin calling people from his work phone.
Yeah,
at Olson's Book and Records, and we told the story the other day, but he called me and said, "Hey, I got us a show in Denver." And I was like, "That's great. How much?" He said, "I'm not sure." He said a C note. That's 100, right? Like,
I had no idea. Yeah, but I mean, it was crazy. I mean, like these, and we would play like legitimate places. We weren't playing basements or house shows or anything. Like we were playing bars with like meals and people there. And
you never did.
You'd call somewhere and they'd be like, "Well, we'll put you on the Shellac show or whatever." It was just like it was just the way it worked. It was really strange.
And because your rent was $250 a month or whatever it was not very hard to. Yeah, and gas was super cheap. It wasn't actually that hard to come back and have a month's rent and the month rent that you just paid for in your pocket.
I literally got my driver's license the year that gas went above 89 cents, and I was like, oh, maybe to go back down. So anyway,
and all that driving you too.
Yeah, and all that. Well, when I was younger-ish.
So you never did the whole sleep on couch basement. Okay.
That's all we did was
because
sleep
you just
on
made
couches.
it seem like. So you played the show.
Then you would announce it for the last song. You'd say you had stuff for sale, and then you'd say, "Hey, if anyone has some extra space, we're 4 or 5 clean living guys, and we'd love a place to stay and come see us afterward." And most of the time, somebody would.
There was always somebody in every town who was like, "I'm the guy that lets bands sleep at his place.
Yeah,
come back to my house and watch this weird Sun Ra documentary with me, man."
I refer to that guy as the Sun Ra guy because he existed in many different
every
towns.
single city.
No tour romance stories.
Yeah.
Dude, have you heard the Pitch Blend records?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like they were thinking about this. It's almost like we were trying to see how we could alienate anyone that could possibly listen to our band by making a collection of inside jokes and atonal songs.
Did any girls
and
show
it totally worked.
Any girls show up to the show?
No. If they came with their boyfriends, and they also dressed like dudes, so you couldn't tell they were women.
Yeah. Unless they had a zine to sell. Maybe they'd show up to sell their zine. The way we got signed is actually kind of a cool story that talks about the old days, too, because we sent a cassette demo to CMJ magazine, which was actually really important at the time, and they put it on the cover as Best New Music, and then we got letters in the mail from record labels.
Yes.
When
Like,
things
just
very
major
old-timey.
labels
like
and stuff.
move slowly, just
Well, how long did that take?
Yeah.
The whole thing probably took maybe
You had to have a PO box.
probably 6 weeks, probably. Like the whole thing from when we sent it to when we saw it.
Yeah.
About 6 weeks.
As opposed to like a band goes up on Stereogum and gets into a bidding war in like 24 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was no
6 weeks.
there was no bidding war.
6 weeks is still pretty fast.
Well, it was all horseback then, too, so it's amazing.
And then you guys quit your jobs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about DC was after we kind of started going on tour, after the second tour, we never had like the same job. And DC is full of temp jobs, so we all worked for like the government. I believe Triops, our guitar player, had a job where he had to go to the Coke plant and shake 6 packs of Coke to see if they had leaks.
Bottles were broken or leaked. I worked at a drug testing lab reporting results. Yeah, I never was a gaff.
Yeah. And what were you eating at the time? Because we saw
It's really funny.
You guys were svelte, to say the least.
I think about those times a lot because I don't seem to have very many food memories of Washington D.C. It's mostly because we were broke, but I mean, we also lived in group houses, and I remember cooking a lot. But there was I remember lots of pizza. There was a place called Armand's that had a $5 all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. And we would go there.
Great.
A deep dish.
Justin and I shared a house with some people for about a year. Mm-hmm. And occasionally we would cook together. We kind of grew up in a similar way, kind of Italian-American family, like Sunday sauce kind of thing. And we did that a couple times. But it was DC, same here. I don't have a whole lot of memories other than going to Burrito Brothers occasionally.
Burrito Brothers.
Yeah.
Getting
that would
about
be a big night.
4,000 calorie thing of rice and beans.
Any good tour food stops?
Yeah. Actually, but later when we ended up playing in Turing Machine too, that was
jump
like
the gun.
Occasionally,
Okay,
on Pitch Blend, Triops didn't really eat. Pat was a vegetarian who didn't like food, so he would just kind of go off on his own.
Triops has my favorite ordering thing where we would be at like Ben's chili and cheesesteak restaurant, and he would order the salmon. Like he was that guy, right? No, I was like, don't do it. Like, the salmon is terrible.
But there's a kind of a hierarchy where you're lucky if they buy you a pizza for the show, and then above that you might get a buyout, like a $10 buyout. Right. So you'd get a $10 buyout, and you'd go kind of fan out around the neighborhood where the club was and see like what you could find. And generally, Pat the vegetarian would go off and buy a burrito, and
Scott and I would actually try to find a restaurant, and those little things like when you're in a punk band and you're sleeping on floors, if you could just manage to scrape enough money to do something that you consider kind of civilized during the day and like sit in a restaurant and have somebody bring you food and relax and be like, this is going to be okay, and sit there and talk about how nobody's probably going to come to the show or whatever, but it give that little period of time where you're not as anxious.
We also there are a handful of times where we'd be stuck somewhere. We were in Olympia, Washington for a long, maybe 2 or 3 days, and we made like a Sunday sauce.
Yeah.
And that was great. It's fantastic.
We would cook at people's houses and cook for them, and that was always
just watch
fun.
Sunrod documentaries all day and cook Sunday sauces.
We actually, and one of my favorite memories was in Livingston, Montana, outside of Bozeman or Missoula. I forget. Someone help me with Montana. Anyway.
I think it was outside of Missoula. No, it was outside of Bozeman. It was outside of
which is great. We stayed with this guy, John. God, what is his last name? Anyway, he booked all the shows, and you stayed at his house. He's actually now a big deal Hollywood sound designer, actually. But we stayed with him, and he left, but he left us elk steaks in a marinade. And we had elk steaks and this great kind of
we barbecued elk steaks outside.
Chili marinade, and that was just amazing.
I would eat that now.
Oh,
yeah,
it was
great.
incredible.
So that was sort of the trajectory Scott and I got on around that time, because we grew up in big food families, and we were traveling. And, around the third or fourth or whatever tour, we'd been to a lot of these places before, and it kind of became about what else is there to do in
how
the
can I
city?
make this more interesting?
You end up seeing the Williamsburg, of every single place you go to. You play.
I'm
If you're
sorry.
lucky, you play in the Bedford Avenue of every city,
There's
which is great.
one.
If you're unlucky, you end up paying the Ainsley
And it's in
Street.
Virginia.
Yeah.
I remember
Colonial and Classic.
Darren when I lived on Capitol Hill in Seattle, and he's like, "So where are we gonna go hang out?" And I was like, "I'm living where we hang out." And then we did that, and then it's like, "That's it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
like,
We
I was
did
there
it.
for a weekend, and I was like, and by Sunday, I went, well, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Cool, Seattle.
We
Thank you.
have a very good Capitol Hill in Seattle food store. We were in Seattle for a couple of days, and we stayed with this guy Niels Bernstein, who now runs.
That was he was a publicist
VP
at
at
Sub Pop
Matador.
then,
Yeah.
and now he's the publicist.
And you always stayed with
publicist
him.
at Matador.
And we were there for a couple of days. And a friend of his had just been to Alaska, and I guess FedExed the salmon in or something.
Yeah, his friend was salmon fishing in Alaska, and FedExed him, overnighted him, like wild caught cold water Pacific salmon.
Wow.
And they had this amazing salmon. Did you guys grill? I missed it because I went to go see a college friend, and that was not fun. But I missed the whole thing, and I missed.
A Drew Barrymore show.
Barrymore
back
show,
in the day.
yes.
Back around when she was dating the guy in Hole, and then we all went to a drag show.
Oh yes, the drag
Wait,
show.
Drew Barrymore show?
No, a drag show.
Drag show.
Oh.
So let's
We're on your show. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah.
I
Wait,
just...
Darren heard wild caught salmon. He's like, now I would get like some lemon.
Yeah. That's
so-
what we did. We
so-
steamed it lemon in the oven.
Let's talk about the decline of Pitch Blend. When did you know that your time as a four-piece was over? And what was the end game like?
We had a really miserable last tour where Justin and a couple other guys in the band got a ton of stuff stolen, and then about
Which number tour was this?
like 3 or 4.
4 or 5.
Was it like a one
We
night?
did weekend shows every
We did a lot of
weekend up and down
shows.
the East Coast. So like we would be in Boston and Philly and
Richmond.
Richmond. Like we were always like around and lots of college shows. But then we'd go on like full tours like once a year.
Yeah, this is one of those
couple times a
like
year.
2-month tours, and we got a bunch of stuff ripped off in San Francisco, which is why I still can't love San Francisco. And then about
Food scene is like, don't judge us.
I know, and about 2.5 weeks later, we thought we had kind of recovered, and then I got the crap beat out of me in Albuquerque, and we had some more stuff stolen.
What?
And by then, we were just okay. It was just kind of
All of our clothes got
kind
stolen
of silent.
after Scott got beaten up outside the band by like some like cholo dudes, hoping that they'd do a lot better than 5 luggages full of thrift store clothes and Dickies. But that's
showed
what they
them.
got.
Yeah.
These skinny, nerdy dudes look like they got a lot of Louis Vuitton going on.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we got back, and
You blamed it on the band?
No, I think
Yeah,
we were
just kind of ready.
We're getting older. Like
we were playing more, and there were diminishing returns, and it was like we had traveled enough too to be like, wow, DC sucks.
Yeah.
Let's get out of DC. It's
Like,
like,
wow,
so
we're in this town, and it's midnight, and there are 5 or 6 different places where you can get food.
Right. So the band breaks up, ends, and you guys look towards Brooklyn, New York.
I was thinking of Chicago or New York, and the woman I was dating at the time, girl, I guess at the time. We were young. That's what I mean.
Didn't you say you were getting older? How old were you at this time?
24.
Oh,
Yeah, getting older.
We were
Yeah.
getting older.
Yeah. So and I was looking at Chicago, and she got a job here, and then I moved here, and it ended up being a great decision. I'm really glad I didn't move.
What
to
year is
Chicago.
this?
I'd probably be playing jazz. This is '94.
Okay.
And I moved a couple months later. I moved, actually, weirdly enough, March of 95 to the 3rd stop on the L train in Graham Avenue, and
What was that like?
it was there was there was my landlord who was the cop who'd been kind of done something, and he got demoted to being a peace officer, and made very unfunny racist jokes to me all the time. Told me how I could
As opposed to the very funny.
yes.
Very big distinction
Like,
here.
the
very
Louis
big
C.K.
distinction.
racist jokes that we've grown
Those are hilarious. He was not in that. Told me how I could get my car off the insurance rolls if I wanted to go out to New Jersey, and that his son would help me. And there was the White Castle, and that was pretty much it.
I remember coming out to see Scott one night because I lived in Manhattan at the time. Because you could do that then.
Where'd you live?
I lived on 27th and 3rd in a neighborhood that my friends was so bland and so white. My friends referred to it as Little Pittsburgh.
Whose mom lived in your building?
Yeah. Barry Manilow's mom lived in my building.
It had, not much as, has Murray Hill gotten much better?
I had a 1-bedroom with a doorman and a washer and dryer for $1,200 a month that was rent stabilized.
I would visit
and
him
that
and
was the
think that
most
he lived in the
expensive
Jefferson's
apartment I
apartment.
looked at in Manhattan at the time. So it was a different era. But Scott lived out here, and I remember coming out, and I felt like I was going to the middle of nowhere. And now I work 4 stops past that.
So what and what jobs did you guys have at the time?
I got a temp job back then. There was just tons of jobs, and so I got a temp job the first day I
you, Bill
moved here,
Clinton.
and they offered me a job that day that I temped. And so I ended up working for 5 years at a health insurance company doing like weird shit.
And Scott?
I didn't have a job. I was unemployed, and there was a moment where I had $400 left and just trying to figure out, well, I guess I can move back to Maine and live with my parents. Actually, they were divorced. Live with a parent. So I spent my days, my roommate and I, we figured out that people wouldn't give us any shit if we walked around like everyone else did in the neighborhood. So we walked around literally shirtless, wearing jeans, drinking Rolling Rock in our neighborhood for maybe a couple of weeks. And then I got a call from John Fine, a friend of mine, who was working in journalism, and he needed help on a project that eventually became Time Out New York, actually. And so I did that and thought I had it made because I had I think they paid me like $100 a day, and it was all great.
Did you get tan?
I did, and I got tan. It was good.
And so then where was the, it's like, hey, like we should do another project.
I was living in the same John Fine.
And what year is this?
1996.
John Fine of which
John
band?
Fine of Bitch Magnet and Vineland and
Coptic Light.
Coptic Light, yes. Soon to be releasing a new memoir on the indie rock experience.
Yes.
Where we both make cameos.
Yes, exactly. With cameo.
Hey, did shirts on? Shirts on.
Did he make you look
Shirts
cool?
off. No, it did not. Anyway, so John lived in a loft building on Roebling and South 2nd. Big building, I think.
And Roebling and South 2nd in 1995 was terrifying.
$1 a square foot. They had an 1,800 square foot space. They paid $1,800, and there were 4 of them. There's a studio in half of it, and I was in between places because I'd moved out of my my racist landlord's house and lived in the studio and kept my sleeping bag in the bass drum. And during that time, Justin started coming in to Brooklyn more often, and the drummer of John's band, Vineland, we kind of got along with, and we liked the same kind of music, so we just started playing. And I don't exactly know what happened, but at a certain point, we had a handful of songs.
Yeah, and we did this thing where we played. It was me, Scott, and Jerry Fuchs, and we did this thing where we played for 3 years, and we never played a show because we were convinced that we were going to get a singer because nobody wanted to hear an instrumental band. And so we went through like a handful of friends and strangers, and it always sucked. And then one day we were just like, oh, wait, I think we're a band. Like, I think we actually... Like, we can just do this. These songs are pretty sweet. Like, let's just be an instrumental band. And, I mean, we can't have less people like us than, like, Pitchblende.
For any of you fans, like, just dive into Spotify if you haven't. Like, I spent this weekend listening to all of your records.
Man.
Well, my first memory...
Chicka-ching.
Yeah, what are you getting on?
I think you get 0.01 cents.
Yeah.
So you guys made money by coming on here, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure we did.
I'm not going back to work.
My first
hell with it.
My first memory of you is that I did college radio, and I used to have the 8 a.m. Friday show. So I would go out drinking all night Thursday, and then go to bed for a couple hours, get up, go to the radio station, and on the days that just the hangover was more just like.
So you did drive time.
8 a.m. drive time, Eugene, Oregon. I think that's like a lot of people on bikes. I would just try and find records that had like the longest possible songs so I could play them and then sleep.
So we are the stranglehold of indie rock.
So it was like the Live Built to Spill album, a couple like...
You just play Cortez the Killer?
Yeah, like Rodan records and then your guys' records. So I would put your guys' records on and just kind of like put my head down on the counter, and that
happens a lot, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's the general reaction to our music.
A new Touring Machine album. Thumb.
But anyway, that was like the first, and I was like, oh, this band is great. Oh, and then I went to sleep.
And I first saw you guys at 4040 in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
R5 production show. And
shout out to Sean Agnew.
Sean Agnew walked by me afterwards and was like, "Wasn't that the sickest fucking thing you've ever seen?"
So
Sean was a big supporter.
And then all I went was, "Sean Agnew just talked to me."
In my mind, just with Sean Agnew, I mean, he's only a few years older than us, but to us, because just the way that it works, Sean Agnew is like a giant in our mind, and like could potentially is like because he started so young, even though he did so much stuff when he was so young, he might as well be like 50 in my mind. He's been doing so much.
He's
stuff.
incredible success from DIY too. So
and if
actually
anybody
really
has,
inspiring dude. Yeah. And we cruised. We were on the Coachella cruise together.
Yeah.
So
96, the band is,
we just started.
You just started. What's the
first record kind of was recorded in 99, so it took us
Okay. Yeah. So what's the food landscape for you guys at that time?
A lot of cheap food.
I think we weren't really making a ton of cash, but we were eating a lot of Chinatown.
I would walk in over the crumbling Williamsburg Bridge at that time, and we'd meet up and we'd get Vietnamese food a lot. We had a lot of pho. We called it pho back then. I guess now we have to say pho.
Now we sell pho.
And we literally would go to the same place. I was just saying before.
Was it pho de Trang?
We would go to Pho Pasteur.
Pho Pasteur.
And
Pho New Pasteur.
Yeah, I went maybe 40 weekends out of 1 year.
40 times?
Fairly certain. You go in, same guy working, no glimmer of recognition.
Yeah, I see the same people. I go to Pho Bang with my wife all the time, and the same guy waits on us every single time for 10 years.
We know what they say about white people. All look the same.
That's true.
That's funny.
And they all just order number 8. They all order number 8.
What was number 4?
It's the pho with brisket.
Can I get that with no tripe, plees?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And now you're like, the more tripe, the merrier.
Back then, like we'd go out to Queens to like, I heard that there's a Brazilian restaurant or whatever. It was all ethnic food because that was the cheapest way to eat too. You'd go to Jackson Heights to eat Indian. You'd go. You spent a lot of time trying to find the cheap eats.
The rumor of the barbecue place in Queens that had real barbecue. This is before barbecue blew up.
Was that at the Car Auto Park?
I don't know. We just drove. We went to a couple places, and one time it was closed. And it was that sort of thing. Like someone always had a car, and we would always.
You'd
try
hear
to
about a burger place.
places.
You'd go out to the burger place in the back of a sports bar or whatever. Like it was always about cheap food. Like the idea of dining, like the idea of eating in a restaurant in the '90s for us that had 2 numbers in the price of the food was out.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if it was over $9.99, there was a place called Sotto Cinque on 3rd Avenue, which was pasta under $5.
Under $5.
And we'd go there, But we tried to find the best food we could for what we could afford. We were still really, for even being broke, we were incredibly picky.
Yes. Snobby, picky.
Isn't that what indie rock is?
Yes.
Of course, yes.
I'm broke, but I'm very picky. Oh, is that the floor I'm sleeping on?
Is there a cat here?
Not this Sun Ra documentary. I've seen this one.
I get it. He's from outer space. I know.
So you guys start touring, right? And you see...
No, we never.
No,
that's the
Touring
thing.
Machine was never really a
Touring
touring
Machine was
band.
actually ironically named because we never toured really more than I think we
And
did.
everybody thought we
did
were
10
called
days.
Touring Machine,
Yes.
and then we'd have to explain our way out of that.
So
that probably
another
wasn't
band.
a nerdy conversation at all, was it?
No, and it usually was with women. No, it was not with women.
Yeah.
So you didn't learn the lesson from Pitch Blend with an E.
I know,
we'll call
I
it
know.
Turing Machine.
And we won't have a singer.
Yeah, we won't have a singer.
Got it.
Well, at least you couldn't alienate women with lyrics.
Gold.
With what?
You couldn't
That's
alienate them
true.
with just
That's
math
true.
rock.
That's true.
It's true.
But,
Well, things did change, but things have very much changed. I mean, at this point, we're playing, and the audiences are pretty 50-50.
50-50 now.
Well, because now you're playing with that sweet disco sound.
Exactly.
Sweet disco sound, yes.
So 99 first record comes out. What label is it on?
J-Tree.
Love Jade Tree.
And that was the
like
the golden years of J-Tree.
99.
Mr. Brazil was on that record.
Our first show was with the Promise Ring. Like they called us and they were like, I knew those guys and they're like, come on, stop playing in your practice space, play a real show. So we went and played with them at some college upstate. Bard. At Bard.
Yes.
Oh, wait, you had a good chance up there with
well-
Smith and all those, right?
Yes, I was expecting a lot.
When you play with the Promise Ring, pretty much that's for all the attention from the girls.
It's true. I was expecting a lot of black turtlenecks and smoking, but apparently that hasn't been like that for a while.
Oh, man. But that part of, New Hampshire?
No,
It's upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Dude.
Upstate New York.
Tivoli. But so we ended up playing with like all the Jets to Brazil. Like we did a small amount of like regional touring with all those bands because they were friend Joan of Arc.
We essentially went out to Minnesota and back.
Yeah, and it was great.
Yeah,
and then we
it was awesome.
we did that 2 times.
Yeah.
And what was the reason that kept you guys from being on the road?
We were all employed.
No employed, yeah.
And we were all like, "There's no way I'm going to like."
Jerry
be
worked at the
broke
stock
again.
market.
Yeah, Jerry worked in the stock market for a while, and then like, kind of bounced around and like ended up working at Scholastic for a long time. And we just we really didn't ever want to compromise being employed, especially living in New York. It's scary, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
scary.
you were at timeout, and then you were just...
It was never a timeout.
Oh.
I ended up, that was a project that fell through, and I ended up weirdly helping start ESPN Magazine. Then after that, I worked at VH1 and wrote TV specials for them.
What were some of your specials?
Oh, Where Are They Now is a big one that I wrote.
Oh.
I will
Which
say-
is kind of like what this show is about, but...
We're right here.
Yeah, exactly. That's not an insult.
Oh, right.
I never. Is that an insult?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
What was your favorite Where Are They Now?
My favorite Where Are They Now was when we got the guys from the Vapors back together for the first time to talk, and they sat down in London, and they hadn't really spoken since the day they broke up, and they still hated each other, and they got in a big fight.
And you guys don't even know who the Vapors are, so that's the best part.
No idea who they are.
Turning Japanese.
Okay.
Yes.
And now they make shows like that. They make shows where
now they
just-
make exactly. We
they're
should have
like,
just made an entire show out of that genre instead.
They did. They made that
Bands reunited.
Bands reunited.
These guys were not. It was two of the guys that were super successful. One guy was a lawyer. One guy was like some other entrepreneur, and the other guys you could tell were just like, I can't believe you ruined my life by kicking me out of this band.
And we're going to get you all together for a big special on VH1.
Exactly.
So then kind of take us through the next few years. The first record comes out in 99. You're touring a little bit.
Playing here and there on the
We
weekends.
played a lot in New York. We played we were selling out brownies and stuff like that. And
played Brownies
was
last
great,
show as
yeah.
a cover band, which was kind of fun.
What was the cover band?
the very, very last night of Brownies, like everybody that had ever played there got up on stage and did covers.
Ted Leo did
Yeah.
a set. We did a set.
Radio 4 did stuff, and it was super fun. Like sort of the house favorite bands.
Ted Leo. Did he play for 3 hours?
No, but he did do Barbara O'Reilly.
And Mike Studo stage stove at the end of it, which was really epic.
That's true.
Yeah.
What did you play?
We did,
Put a Minor Threat song with John Fine singing.
we did a Mission of Burma
Mission of Burma
song. We
song.
did a Killing Joke song.
Oh, yeah.
Which
And I think we did Me I Disconnect From You by Gary Newman. And I
then
think we
a
did No
Joy
Love
Division
Lost by
song.
Joy
Yeah,
Division.
yeah.
Because those were the only covers I know, so I know that's what we played.
I know 5 cover songs.
We used to actually. It was funny with Turing Machine up until maybe 2005 or so. We'd always end the show with a cover where we'd sing. Because we felt bad, we made people listen for 40 minutes of instrumental music.
Yeah.
So it was always kind of fun.
Apologetic. indie
like
rock.
a really sad
Sorry about
cover.
that.
Sorry, guys.
But
Here's a
during
song
that
you
time,
know.
in the late 90s or 2000s, Don Cab and a whole litany of other bands.
Those are bands that we played a lot with.
I
in
went to a lot of
Pittsburgh.
Tristeza. Like, I would go see
Yeah.
bands.
We played with them too.
There was no lyrics.
Believe me, if there was a band that didn't have a singer, we got the call to play with
I mean,
them.
did you
We always-
fully embrace math rock as a title, or did you?
I think we always wanted to play with bands that didn't sound like us.
Yeah,
And we
our
were
whole
always a
thing is
little
like we
bummed out.
really always, and it shows like the way we made the final record is we were really always trying to be sort of dance music-y or dance music related, even though at that point I didn't listen to any dance music, but I had seen a lot of car commercials. So I figured it
been
kind
in
of
a lot
had
of
a
hotel
general
lobbies?
idea.
Yeah.
It's a general idea of what it was, but I mean, we really were sort of into that kind of concept. I mean, it was more like we want to do something more funky and groovy.
And you did that with Panthers, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, but let's do early 2000s.
2000s, we actually started writing some more songs, and then we recorded a second record called Zwei, which means, I believe, two
In German.
and recorded a record with Steve Revitt, who is a good friend of ours, who ran front of house sound for LCD Sound System, and recorded a bunch of other bands that are bigger than us. And that came out on French Kiss Records.
Ooh.
which
What
was
up, Sid?
Exciting. Hi, Sid. Have you found our masters yet? Because no one seems to be able to find them. No, it's true. They've gone missing. It's very Eddie and the Cruisers, if you saw that movie.
They're going to show up in a box in 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll re-release your second album.
That sounds perfect. So we recorded that, and then went on a little bit of a tour. Went down. Did we do South by Southwest that year?
Because I was in Panthers then too, and so we did a double tour where like both bands were in the same van, and I played both shows each night, which was actually really fun. And but the tour was whatever. We went South by Southwest and back, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
But
Speaking of dance rock, that Panthers "Thank Me Both Hands" Mastercraft remix was one of the first like dance rock.
that thing was huge.
And I remember that came out, and that's when like you could actually collect all the dance rock songs, and it was like that
like
and
trading
the
cards.
House of Jealous Lovers.
House of Jealous, like Phones, Block Party remix.
Yeah.
And I remember
Losing
trying to
My
find
Edge.
out like Mastercraft, and who are these guys? And they just had like this weird photo up on their website, and like it was like really cryptic, and I was like, huh. And we played that at all of our dance nights.
And then you found out it was the dude from Death from Above 79.
We were just not that savvy at the internet.
Yeah.
It took us a while, but that was like one of the first. So
Well, you'll be happy to know that there's a Turing Machine remix, Double 12, in the works.
That's true.
Which we're excited about.
Hot Chip remix, Steve Moore remix, House of House remix,
And a DJ McNanny
and a
remix.
DJ McNanny remix.
wait, that sounds amazing.
Who's putting that out?
They're kinda great.
Temporary Residence. We're just waiting. We're waiting on a longer version of the Hot Chip remix. So
Long intros and outros for those DJs?
exactly. Someone we're all friends with, Jay Strell,
Love Jay Stroud.
Jay
Shout out.
Stroud.
Jay Stroud, the great connector.
When he actually lived in a group house with Scott and I in DC, and he was really into
Dave
beer.
Sartorius.
He was really into beer. And he had these Michael Jackson, the Beer Hunter videos that I would watch that blew my mind because I got into the whole idea that it was travel related. Not Michael Jackson. There was a white
British,
Michael Jackson, British.
British
Don't you
beer
mean
expert.
2 white Michael Jacksons?
Exactly. So he had these, and I got into that idea, and like that beer was like regionally specific, and it was even though we could only afford Milwaukee's Best or whatever at the time.
But we would occasionally go to the Brickskeller, which had a 30-page beer book. And
We'd get really excited because we all ordered a $5 beer, and then I moved to New York, and Jay ended up moving here later. And we would like spend the days walking around and hanging out because that's what you did then. You walk
Shirts
around
on or
Soho.
shirts off?
Shirts. Oh, we were shirts on.
Okay.
So, but Jay would always go to Astor Wines or wine shops, and sort of by hanging out with him, I was like, oh, I can actually afford wine. I didn't know it could be cheap, and around then, we were still broke and young, so we were drinking like $5 bottles of wine, but they were actually made by people. And then Jay ended up getting a job years later. He was thinking about opening a wine shop, actually, and just never really found the right space. And ended up working at Uval Wines, and when it was on North 5th Street in Williamsburg. And it was like, you should work here one day a week. And I kind of bluffed my way into the job and started working there and got really interested in wine. And
What year is this?
Was it 03?
Okay.
04 maybe,
Yeah.
04. And yeah, probably 04. And then little by little, like a year and a half later, I really got so into it that I became the buyer there when the buyer left.
I remember you were telling me you were super excited about the Wine Avenger book.
Yeah. There was a book by this guy Willie Gluckstern called The Wine Avenger that I got really into, and it was like, it was about like don't ever spend more than $10 on a bottle of wine, and they're swearing in it and all this shit, and I got really psyched on that. And so I used to go into the city then when I got really serious, and I'd go in the city and buy wine and bring it back to Brooklyn, and because there weren't wine shops out here, and I don't know, it was just
How quickly did you become known as the wine guy of your friends?
a couple years maybe. I don't
Pretty
know.
quickly, yeah.
Jay was kind of the wine guy for a long time, and then I found sort of my niche, which was natural wines and stuff like that, which is sort of the indie rock world version of wine. So,
Do you find that a lot of your indie rock tendencies just moved over to food?
I think it's not just indie rock, because all that little picky shit is just, there's music like that, there's food like that, there's clothes. I know people that are really into wine, that are really into fashion or book collecting too, that don't care about indie rock. It's just like they're all similar obsessions.
Doesn't care about indie rock?
I know, it's sad.
It's weird.
She sounds female.
And then, Scott, how did you make your way into
ESPN magazine to
It was the culmination of essentially 15 years of doing a lot of freelance food writing for some awesome publications and some less awesome publications. I essentially needed money and knew a guy who edited the Farmer's Guide to New York. Remember those when they came out every year? Big bound books. Yeah. And I edited the dining restaurant section for 2 years, even though I had just moved to New York and didn't know anywhere to go. And that was
You're like, I heard there's a barbecue place out in Queens.
No, it was a lot of phone calls to Le Cirque asking them to send me menus and tell me about their specials, and then I'd write up a 30-word blurb about it, and then
Sparrow's. If you're looking for New York's best pizza,
Sparrow's was not in there. We tended to keep the chain restaurants out, but there were 3 levels of expense, and we never really had money to send me anywhere. And then I wrote a few things for Time Out, where my now actually boss, editor-in-chief Adam Rappaport, was the food guy back for Time Out. And I wrote one piece that he really liked, which was essentially living in New York on $5 a day food-wise, which is all about cooking out all your meals, eating leftovers. It was a week. I fudged it a teeny bit, but not that much. And
what was the fudging?
I didn't actually eat the chicken salad the next day from the roast chicken and a lot of that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you could have.
You could have.
You could have.
I see that you've been holding that guilt for years.
I did feel
We didn't
kind
even
of bad.
probe you, and you're like, I gotta come clean.
And then he went to GQ, and I wrote a piece for him where I went upstate and killed a chicken. This is pre everyone
With his bare hands.
Everyone killing things.
Snap the neck
I
with
was
a knife to the
early.
neck.
No, it was actually an axe, which I since found out is less efficient, and you should actually just cut the vein and bleed them out, which is actually much more brutal. I've done that too. That's not fun. But the axe is just, anyway. So I did that, and was always doing freelance food stuff on the side, and then eventually got back in touch with Adam when he got this job and sent him way too many memos, and I think he just gave up and said, all right, please, enough of the memos, come on board.
And what year is that?
That was when they moved Bon App from L.A. to New York. They essentially got rid of the entire staff and restaffed up in New York, and so that was 2011 January.
So, Turing Machine second record came out when?
2004.
So what happened in the interim between? I mean, obviously you guys got jobs and everything.
Greg,
Well, I mean,
can we not talk?
A lot happened.
Of course.
At this point, our drummer Jerry was playing a lot of other bands. He was in Chick Chick Chick. He filled in
played
for
LCD,
for
played the Massive
tour.
Attack record. Like,
He was doing a lot.
He was really becoming
he was
the guy.
A real drummer, a real musician. Like,
unlike us, he was like a guy who would have been a professional musician for his life.
Yeah. And and so we didn't play a whole lot. We would kind of get together and play a bit and get some steam, momentum, and then he'd go away again. So in 2008, we went upstate?
That sounds right.
Yeah, we went up. I've just kind of falling down house upstate. So we went up there for a long weekend of food and essentially recording a bunch of demos.
And our friend DJ came up, and our friend Mike came up, and we just like cooked and drank
and played. I mean, we went through
nonstop. We never did that before.
How many cases of wine did we
did like 3 cases in 2 days.
Amateur hour.
We essentially played and drank all weekend and came away with a lot of really good stuff, and then listened to it, got excited about it, then it kind of sat because Jerry went away and played.
And we tried to replay it, and it never had the same vibe because they were all improvs.
Yeah.
And we couldn't really relearn it, and then we never really had the momentum.
And then we started playing a bit, and we had a couple of really good practices. And then, about a year and a half later, as you may or may not know, people listening, our drummer died in a horrible, horrible accident. And obviously, the band was put on hold, and it bummed everybody out, as well as you might imagine it would when one of your best friends passes away. I hate to bring the radio show down.
This is, I only bring it up because it is part of your guys.
Yeah,
of course. We're not going to not talk about it. Of course.
But we got talking, and we thought, what the hell? Let's see if we can finish this record. And we
really wanted
a lot of people were asking us about it.
A lot of our friends were like, "Come on, you guys! Like, you have all this stuff recorded. Don't pussy out on this."
Like, hold on, I heard a really great story. Wasn't there a story about?
I'd like to hear the story.
He was still listening to the CDs.
Yes.
Yeah. We were. One of the gruesome things that happens when a friend dies is if you're an adult, his friends come in and you clean out his room and call the family, and we were cleaning things up, and in his CD player was the CD of the demos. So he'd been listening to the demos, which is great.
And we had the last time we hung out, we
Yeah.
were really talking about like, dude, let's just finish this. So we ended up going back. We had very generous friends. Our friend Jeremy at Temporary Residence, our friend Andrew Raposo, and then our future soon-to-be friend Abe Seifert. They really got with us, and they were like, let's finish this record.
There's a lot of stuff here. You guys can do it.
Yeah,
and Justin and I didn't know. We kind of it's a new way of making records for us. It was
we didn't really know how to make records on the
and
computer and edit and all that stuff. We just used to go in and play live and make it. But there was enough there that we really were able to edit it and make it into a record. And it was
records.
I still think it's the best thing we ever did.
It is amazing. So. And I just want to say that when we got it to, I'd never seen you guys growing up because no one ever came to Eugene.
Right.
When I was I was living there.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay, pitch blend.
There's a way to make gas money on the way to San Francisco.
Pretty much, or south of Portland. But when I saw you guys play at Union Pool, I was like, "Holy shit, these guys are fucking amazing!" And like when you played that Union Pool show, which is still one of my favorite venues to see bands.
Yeah, so we ended up playing some shows for fun. We got our friend Chris Egan to play drums, who's now on tour probably for the rest of his life with Solange Knowles.
Yeah.
So you guys are really gifted at finding gifted drummers.
Yeah.
I mean, also finding drummers who we work well personality-wise. And Chris is a perfect fit.
That was another thing, another reason
why. Where did you happen to find Chris?
He worked at the wine shop with me.
At one point, we were rehearsing for our first show with the new band because we added 2 people after this record, and 3 of the 5 people in the band actually worked at UVA.
I remember when you guys
It was really hard to practice because we had to figure out a time where everybody couldn't be at work.
Right. It's like you guys, I think there was one show you played where like UVA just shut down for the afternoon because it was just...
He had to run back to work after a show outside, But so that's fun, and we do that more for like events and party shit, like...
Yeah. Should I play a song?
Yeah, let's play a song because we'll go out
let's finish up. Yeah, we'll finish up.
We'll finish out with it. So what's on the future for you guys, both food and musically?
I'm really into the wine importing thing right now. And just got back from 3 weeks in France. We signed somewhere between 7 and 9 new producers.
This new band's got some hot stuff coming out of
Yeah, exactly. So that's been great. And
I mean, is that what it's like though when you're signing a new wine?
It's a little like that, but it's not. But bands like are somebody that's existed for a year. Like I'm talking about people that have made things for a long period of time that like work. Farmers. Like being in a band is easy. Being a farmer is no joke.
Can you just give us a quick rundown of what it's like to find a new wine and sign them?
It depends. It's mostly it's personality. Like you go, you taste, you hang out. Hopefully it's good. A lot of the time it's not. You find something you really want, and then you have a conversation about who else you work with. It is sort of, in a label way, it is that kind of thing where like once you mention people that they respect that you work with, then they trust you. But a couple of American dudes just rolling up to some farmer's house, to taste and hang out, they can be suspicious until you show who your references are. And then you taste, you hang out, you go to the vines, you spend time together, you eat together, you develop a real relationship, and then when they trust you, they put a bunch of wine in a truck and it shows up in New York, and we sell it to restaurants and shops.
And what's your favorite new wine?
I don't really have a favorite.
You love them all.
No, I really like our book and I like our portfolio, and I'm really excited about what we're doing overall. And I think it's really amazing to see it all as one big package.
I'll ask it another way. My parents, their wedding anniversary, 34 years. What type of bottle would you recommend from your book for them for 34 years?
I don't know. I don't know their parents. I'd have to know what they drank. I mean, that's the thing. It's
so democratic.
It's about the time and the place. It's not like a cachet thing where like, oh, this will, this is going to make you happy. I think we have things that I think are really epic and beautiful, but.
Although you didn't know, that is actually the correct answer. Well done.
And if people want to find out where to get your wine, where could they go?
Well, we're working on a website. We don't have one. So we will have a website in the next, I'd say, a month. We'll have a real website up. It'll just be ZevroVineSelections.com. I think it's ZevroVineSelections.com or ZRSWines.com. I can't remember.
Say that how do you spell that?
ZRSWines.com, or it's ZevroVineSelections.com. That's my friend Zev's name. He had the company long before we started working together, and I've helped him sort of develop a lot of the stuff he's done the last few years, and we're having a blast.
Awesome. Scott, what do you got coming up?
I actually got a little bit of traveling coming up, which is good because normally I am desk bound. I'm going to where am I going? I'm going to Maine for a little story. I should be going to London. Quickly, London. We got asked to play All Tomorrow's Parties.
Oh yeah,
we went on food.
And essentially,
tour.
Justin and I just set it up with our friend Nancy. Essentially, the show was the smallest part of it. The show was fantastic, but we set up food all around it. We did a DJ night the day after the show in London, so we could actually spend an extra day eating. We ate with the dudes from the Young Turks, Isaac and
shout out
and
Daniel
so and Johnny. We ate upstairs at 10 Bells, and they served us the menu they were working on for the new restaurant Shoreditch Clove Club, which just opened up.
Oh, it was awesome! That was one of the best meals I had last year.
And so that was. We had a really great food experience in London. But where else am I going? Oh, I'm excited about Mexico City. Mesa America. That should be a blast. I've never been. I have a good friend of mine who goes like once every 6 weeks, so I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. I think the last Swallow issue, Swallow magazine, was all about Mexico City. It's a scratchy sniff, so you should check it out. So
I don't know if I want to check that out really.
And then Touring Machine.
We're looking for our first show in 2013.
It's hard to get. Yeah. I mean, there are 5 grown men, and 3 of the other guys have very, very serious musical things they do, and so it's really hard to get us in a room.
Yeah,
we're hoping to do something interesting in the end of June, early July.
Oh my God, that'd be a great name for your next album: 5 grown men in a room. But we'll talk.
Interesting googling that.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll get you guys to DJ the barbecue series again this summer.
Oh, we did that last year. That was
a lot of fun.
We'll do that with Garrett and May and something like that.
Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything, especially when it comes to beef. In Northern Australia, there's a different approach to raising high-quality beef. Westholme, based in Queensland and Northern Territory, is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Westholme stewards 16 million acres of rangeland guided by their natural ecosystem. They're led by a belief that if they balance the needs of their cattle with the needs of the environment, both can thrive. Westholme's team of rangeland experts and nature managers use a variety of tools to monitor and respond to the welfare of the environment, like satellites that assess grass health and on-the-ground research. Cattle are happier when they have the freedom to forage and explore, so Westholme ensures that they can roam wild. foraging at will for the first 2 to 3 years of their lives. Their cows graze on native grasses like Mitchell grass, which is only found in Australia, along with dozens of other plants, herbs, and seasonal legumes. The result is a high-quality Wagyu beef that reflects the terroir of Northern Australia and a flavor suited to complement any cuisine. West Home believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westhome.com.
We have wine guy Justin Chearno.
Hey, what's up?
Who I think was also at a wedding with Greg a while
I'm
back.
still kind of drunk from it. That was last year.
Justin is filling in as co-host. Congratulations on Four Horsemen.
Thank you.
Opening, I think this is the last time we had you on.
That would be, yeah, that's right.
And we'll have you guys in. How's the restaurant going?
Restaurant's going great. It's, we made it. We're still open. We haven't burned it down. It's been 3.5 months, I guess. And people seem to be coming and, drinking a lot of wine, and it's been great.
Awesome. I love it there.
Thank you. We love having you.
Yeah, that potato dish. Come on. Thrice fried, right?
Thrice fried.
Thrice fried. Four times would be illegal.
We just keep frying it until somebody orders it.
They're just constantly frying. We have a very awesome and packed all-food show today. Daniel Willis from Clove Club. Daniel, what was that first song that you played for us?
That was Brothers on the Slide by Sandman B.
Nice. Super on the Slide.
Super on the Slide, yeah. They were a group of kind of immigrants, really, I suppose what you call them, but all different types of African orientation from Ghana, and they all sort of settled in London and created around sort of 3 albums of amazing kind of African kind of funk, but while all being in London.
Amazing. The great melting pot of London.
Exactly.
First up, though, we have Cal Bergen and Mads Refslund. Cal from the North Festival and Mads from Acme. Boys, welcome to Snacky Tunes.
Thank you.
To say that Nordic cuisine has become popular in the last 5 years would be a bit of an understatement. What do you think makes Nordic cuisine so popular, and why did it become popular at the time it did?
Well, I mean, I think Nordic cuisine was a great representative of a lot of stuff that was happening across the globe at the same time. The same kind of movement that was happening with Mats and the other guys back in the Nordic region was happening here in the States. It was happening in Australia. It was coming up in France. But the Nordic cuisine became the steam engine, so to speak, for it. It had some great representatives, obviously with Rene being such a huge profile. And so I think a lot of the things that were happening across the globe were kind of translated by the Nordic cuisine, and thereby it became the steam engine for locavore, slow food, and a lot of these movements that are really interesting.
At what point do you start to realize that something's happening? Especially being at a place like Noma, which became the epicenter for all this. Do you start to go, all right, we've sort of been cooking and we're doing well, but you start to feel this sea change?
I don't know. I don't know when it was, but from the beginning we just knew there was something special.
Yeah.
And just feed that all the time and just keep on doing it. And one day, if you believe in yourself, I think everything will be a success. I don't know when and what was happening in a way, but we just did it.
I mean, I feel like especially at a restaurant like that, you sort of, I don't want to say put your head down, but you just keep going into work, turning out great food, and then one day you pick your head up and you go, we've done something different and special.
But I don't think we were thinking about we have to do something different. I just think we were proud of who we were and where we was in that time of life, and we're just cooking with what we had in the backyard, and it just became a success.
Now, is it one of those things where people who've been cooking Nordic food, it's just what they did, and then everyone else sort of went, oh wait, they've been doing what we all want to be doing with food?
Yeah, I think so, in a way. But, the Italian have done this for so long. The Greek and the French people have done the same thing. But I think what we did in the beginning was Denmark didn't have that voice at that time, and we just had to put it out there. Just had to tell. We also have a story to tell.
Yeah,
we have to be proud of the land we are living in. So we start cooking with the things we had in our backyard. The fridge was our backyard, so we didn't import anything. We didn't take anything from France and cook with that. We just used the things we had there. And suddenly, you know, it's a little bit different, and people are looking that way because everything that's different is interesting in a way. Sometimes. So,
do you feel that every great food movement or change like that needs an ambassador?
You need somebody who can tell the story.
Right.
If the story is not told right, then people will not understand it.
When you came to the States and started cooking, you're talking about things being in your backyard. Obviously, you have to make all these new relationships with your purveyors, with your farms, and obviously, it seems to be tougher here to really find products on the level that seem to be easier to find in a smaller country. Or you're dealing with this huge country in this huge place. Was it hard for you to round up good products?
It was very hard, and it was like starting in kindergarten. So, everything was new here, and I walked down the streets. I didn't know the street names. I didn't have any friends, and it was difficult. And you go to Union Square Market, you don't have built up any relationships with anybody. But everybody's very friendly, and everybody want to give something. And when you dig into the ground and then just start learning about the terroir here and start get relationship with farmers and purveyors, and then it's getting easier. So now maybe after 4 years I'm in second or third grade. So you have all the amazing stuff here. It's such a big country, yeah, and the Northeast here is amazing. There's so many things growing here we didn't have in Denmark. So of course there was a lot of the same things, but you also have different things. So I'm not saying that the Nordic countries have something that's much better than here, because we also have things here that's better than there. So in a way, it's the same. I'm very proud of where I am right now, and I think what we have in New York there's a really good story to tell here, because we have such a good terroir here. We just have to use it better, and then we are doing it right now.
But one thing to remember also in terms of the Nordic cuisine was that it wasn't like everything was there. It wasn't like there were all these amazing artisan producers and farmers everywhere. This was built hand in hand with a lot of these chefs and personalities. Like they started literally in kindergarten back then as well. You went out into the beach and started picking herbs and started like working with farmers to develop things that you wanted to have in your restaurant. So that was a huge part of the development of the Nordic cuisine as well, was to find and nurture all of these amazing artisan producers that are there now.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, that's so great to be like, we're trying to go for this profile of this dish. Can you help grow this for me or help raise this for me? And then they already know that someone's going to buy that from them.
Well, that's probably the impediment for a lot of people. I think I've run into people a lot that say like, oh, I'd love to grow this, but there's no one that wants it. Or I guess finding the right person to have that conversation with and letting them know that you can support them.
That's true.
It's really important.
Now, the North Festival started in 2012.
Yes, correct.
And what made you feel that? I mean, I remember when all these little Nordic restaurants started popping up in New York and Brooklyn and things like that. And what gave you the idea to be like, we got to celebrate this. We got to hold on to this moment.
Well, I mean, for me, it was I'd been based in Denmark, kind of in the eye of the storm for a while, and when you're based there, all of a sudden everything is Nordic and everything's happening and it's exploding. At some point you begin to think that, well, you know what, probably people are tired of this now. And then about 3 years ago, I moved to New York, and I kind of realized that it was only just beginning here. All these awesome restaurants, like Mass has been here for about a year. Freddie was doing Aska, and Daniel was about to open up Luxus, and it was like it felt like the perfect time to really celebrate this, and also like Aquavit was being revitalized and becoming relevant and interesting again. So
shout out to the original Swede, Marcus Samuelsson.
Well, absolutely, and then and now that kind of grand old lady of fine Scandinavian fine dining is doing better than the past 15 years, I think.
Yeah. Now, at Acme, how much are you pulling from Nordic cuisine as inspiration, and how much are you just trying to push it into something new?
So, I don't think Acme is a Nordic restaurant at all because, I cannot run away from who I am and where I came from, but I'm inspired by this land now. I'm inspired by New York. So when I go out in nature here and pick herbs or whatever I do, I'm inspired by that land.
Yeah.
So it would be wrong to say that it's a Nordic kitchen. But of course, when I came here, the whole way I was thinking, the philosophy of who I was and what I did was Nordic. But now I don't, I still have the same way of thinking food and inspired by nature. But also now I'm very inspired by people and other restaurants and Mexican food, Italian food, whatever it is here in this melting pot of city. And I think Acme has its own voice now. It's more New Yorker, I think.
I remember when I went during the first month, and I was like, "This is such an awesome New York restaurant." It was like hip and it had that energy, but then the food was also great. And a lot of times in New York, you do not you get like one or the other. And then every time I go back, it's always been crackling and popping and things like that, and it's very inspired by the city around it. With any trend or anything that comes new, like a cuisine thing like that, you're always going to see some people doing very not so flattering interpretations of it. What have you seen that that was a representation of Nordic cuisine that you went, oh, that's just awful, or that's just trying to capitalize on something new?
Can you even say that, Matt?
No, I don't know.
Well, I think
you don't have to use names. But
I don't think that I've seen that much here in this city. I think most of the people that have opened up anything Nordic here have done a pretty good job. But if you go to Copenhagen or Stockholm or any other capital city in the Nordic region, you're going to see very clearly certain restaurants that open up, and it's like, oh, that dish was at Noma's menu 2 months ago.
Right.
Or, so, obviously that's going to happen everywhere in the world, but I don't think that I've seen that much of that here, to be honest, which is good.
It's a pretty holistic and great trend of just, it's like how are you going to rip off fresh food, local food?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think what you see as a rip-off more is the plating style, and the actual ceramics. And you'll
ceramics is like the same.
I think you and you often see. I think the derivative moment to me is you see the people seem to be basing the recipe on a photo that they've seen of the food, but they've never had the food, and that's true. Those are the low points.
Yeah, when you go like,
it's kind of amazing in a way. You can get inspired by a photo, and you make something out of that. I think that's amazing. You get inspired by that. I think I feel very proud of I was a part of that once. That actually people get inspired by this.
That's amazing.
I remember reading about you guys, I don't even remember, years ago, and then I found out that you were coming over for LaFooding, and I was like, I'm just going to go hunt these dudes down. And it was in the back of Prime Meats, Spatino's, and I was like, you don't know me.
Yeah.
But we went up to you, and then we had this magical night in New York.
Yeah.
Where we took you, we did all the party tricks, like Mission Chinese food, and then we got backstage to Webster, and then we went to the rooftop of the Standard.
Yeah, which I'm staying in this weekend and completely didn't realize that was where we went. And
oh yeah.
Someone reminded me when I was coming, or someone told me when I was coming that they sometimes give you earplugs at the hotel because there's a club on the roof, and I was like, wait a minute. That was when the Brezhnets took me out and got me really, really.
It was to
the brink, and then the next morning, the worst thing about it was that we went after we left you guys at whatever time it was, like 5 or 6, we had like 2 hours sleep, and then we had to go to Governor and rip the heads off 200 lobsters for the dinner that we did that night, which still remains to this day Lobstergeddon. And I think the only time I will massacre at least 100 animals in one.
That was a great dinner. That may have been the best Lafooting dinner that was ever done. It was a real community effort.
Yeah, it was really great, and everyone from that dinner, I think's gone on to do really great things. And there's been so many times when you're sort of, well, you were talking about before, do you realise you're part of something? And like I completely agree with Matt. You just do it because that's what you're doing at the time, and then it's only kind of with hindsight and retrospect that you kind of realise that there was something happening. And yeah, definitely that dinner was one of them.
Yeah. Now it's funny because British food has had a reputation and been well known for probably all the wrong reasons for a very long time.
Yeah, it's funny. Like even now, like I went to Tokyo 2 years ago, and I was lucky enough to go with a friend of mine who runs Fuji Rock and Asagiri Jam, which is confusingly Fuji Rock isn't at Mount Fuji, but Asagiri Jam is, and went and kind of got a amazing tour of Japan, and trying to explain to people what a British restaurant was quite it's quite a task anyway, but everyone was like, so what is British food? Is it fish and chips? I mean, like,
nice.
Even people, like really cool people who were on it in Tokyo, like going out eating dinners, like really knowledgeable about food, just had absolutely no idea what it was.
So how did Clove Club get started, which is your restaurant there? And it was an iteration before it became a brick and mortar.
Yeah, I think we sort of we mentioned the Franks before about just having a story which people kind of buy into, but it's just what happened. And we were doing a lot of music. We'd moved, my business partner and I, Johnny, we've been best friends since we were 4.
Did you just have some memories right there? Did you just go back for a minute?
I kind of was struggling to describe our relationship
it's an undying love. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. So the two of us in our civil partnership came down to which is since we've had to get divorced because I've actually got a new relationship with a girl.
Oh yes,
now.
Congratulations on getting engaged.
I'm engaged. Yeah, I got engaged at Easter. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
But back to the old partnership.
The old ball and chain, right?
Yeah. So we went down to London 2008, doing lots of music stuff, and we were I was working at St John Brewing and Wine. Johnny was working at another restaurant, Great Queen Street. James Lowe was head chef at St John Brewing and Wine, and we were all just basically hanging out. Supper clubs had kind of happened. Nuno Mendes had done the Loft, so Sam Nutter and Isaac and Kobe, James Lowe, all these kind of amazing chefs had done the Loft. So supper clubs are kind of all the rage in London, and we went to a few, and they were just a bit lackluster, and we were just in a discussion. We're like, yeah, we can do something like this, so we can do it much better than anyone else is doing. So we did a little dinner party at our flat, sort of 3 nights. We turned our living room into a restaurant, and having slaved my guts over a music career which I desperately wanted, and a creative project which people were liked, and it was kind of going well. It was just it was quite nice, and also slightly frustrating to have one which just went bang.
And you went, man,
yeah, just
it's weird.
We do music as well.
Yeah. It's like no. I mean, like come listen to this record.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, hey man, this music doesn't really go with the food. It's like, yeah, but these are like the demos. And we're trying to...
exactly. But you know what? It was a beautiful partnership. We got people to do mixes basically, which we played during the meal. So awesome. Yvonne Smag did the first. Who else did we have? Andrew Weatherall did one for us. Milo, like all sort of people that were kind of in and around at the time. So there was a nice music connection, and then we did basically 3. Isaac did the first. James Lowe did the first. Isaac did the second, who's now my business partner, Clove Club, and then a chef called a Swede, Robin Holmgren, who's now head chef at 50 Jim Miller's restaurant. He did the third, and then over that time it just went crazy. The first one sold out in 3 days, second one sold out in 3 hours, and the third sold out in 3 minutes. It was
is that the rule of thirds I hear so much about?
Yeah, it was just the way it worked out.
So when did you decide? I mean, you have sort of lightning in a bottle at that moment.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, were the offers pouring in to open a restaurant, or were you just like, we're going to go do something? Because what the restaurant, for those who haven't been, it's not just like, hey, we open up a small thing. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous spot in a very popular part of town.
Yeah, I think right from the start, people offered us sort of investment. They could see it was very special. I think the challenge for us, which I thought we did really well, just naturally, was to take that and then put it into something which was permanent. So it wasn't, you're in a restaurant, but it's in someone's living room. It's like, no, this is actually like, bricks and mortar, like you said, a proper restaurant. And then I think we did the 10 bells before, which is when I missed Chearno. And that was kind of a really nice stepping stone, because that was 3 months that turned into 6 months. And that got reviewed by Fame Ashler and people like that. So then that kind of gave us the real sort of serious profile, which was amazing from that point. And then we crowdfunded, so that's awesome. Yeah, so we raised £250,000 and sold 25%.
That's $4 million American, right?
I'm not at the moment, probably.
That's an incredible thing.
That's an incredible thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, you kind of. A lot of people, I think, were like, how have you done this? They're like some kind of like Machiavellian plan, and we're like, entrepreneurial geniuses. But actually, we just did stuff, and then we talked to people, and they were like, you know what, you guys should do this next. And we're like, okay, let's do that. So someone that we knew had raised £1 million with a very canny move. Jonathan Downey, who did the London franchise of Milk and Honey with Sasha, R.I.P.
R.I.P. Man.
Yeah. So he really helped us do that, and so that was how we did it. But it was kind of the first time anyone had done it in London, which didn't help us, didn't hurt us PR wise.
No, and then everyone else tried to do it. It's like, man, no one else can sort of hit those numbers.
Well, I was kind of thinking potentially we might get into a discussion about who's doing well in London or what's going on at the moment.
Well, I mean, in the same way about Nordic cuisine, I mean, London is having its own culinary movement. I mean, years ago, if you said that we're going to go to London for like a whole eating weekend, I'd be like, okay. Yeah. Like, that's cool. Like, it sounds sort of greasy, but let's go. But now it's like, there's not enough time to hit all the restaurants that you want to hit.
No, it's really amazing. I think, I mean, there's some guys called Somsar who are kind of doing not directly a similar thing, but they've done this pop-up that's been really well, and it's like northern Thai food, and it's amazing. There's no coconut milk, nothing. It's really, really great food, but they've just raised $550,000 to do their restaurant.
Wow.
So there are people doing it. We're not the only ones.
That's amazing. I mean, like New York, it's a lot harder to define like what constitutes as like London food. That isn't just, I mean, if you step away from your like fish and chips, it's such a melting pot of flavors and things like that.
Yeah, I think we talked about game before. I mean, we're so blessed in the UK. It's just like half the year of just, I mean, you don't really have to do too much with it. You look through the flavour thesaurus and you get your game, and you just like, which is not to kind of diminish what Isaac or some of these amazing chefs do, but you do have amazing produce, and I think there are a lot of openings which people play it a little too safe in a way, and it's kind of lemon tart and kind of classic takes on British dishes which aren't necessarily progressive, but in a similar way, I think I'm sure you guys have sort of similar quibbles with food in New York. Like there's lots of great stuff, but there's a few like really amazing things.
I mean, amazing. Yeah, it's tough to find really consistent, amazing things.
Yeah.
Something where you go, that was beyond what even I understand.
Yeah.
Would you consider Clove Club a British restaurant?
I think that I would, and I have described it as that. I think that, everyone has their own interpretation of what a restaurant is and how they would define it. The decor, I think, is very kind of classic. There's a few contemporary touches, but it feels like a British restaurant in that sense. And I think the cuisine itself is definitely seen through the British seasons. I think Isaac's probably the most knowledgeable person I know ever met about food. He's just,
it's scary.
It's amazing. And I mean, we got talking about tacos the other day, and he started talking about what happens is that not the fermentation, the alkaline process which goes through to soften the corn to then make the tortillas. And he was like, there's only other 3 processes that goes through, or that happens. One's with like burying sharks in Finland or whatever, and then like that, and then like some other thing. And he's a real encyclopedia of all things to do with food.
Yeah. Now, given your music background, what's the soundtrack like at the restaurant?
It's funny actually, because I used to get really kind of sort of quite het up about it. Be like, okay, I've done the next playlist. Like it was this huge thing, and then actually, all night. Yeah, and then now I'm just like, oh god, just get the playlist done. I'm kind of like, and everyone moans because it's the same music, but I'm like, there's 2 lunch playlists. There's like 3 lunch playlists which we do, and they're all like in excess of 15 hours. I'm just like, if you're listening to the same music, it's because the person, the host stands playing the same playlist again. There's 3 of them. Just switch it up.
Just switch it. Just change it.
Yeah, there's 45 hours of music worth of music. You know, you can't be working. None of you are working that hard to get bored of this music. But yeah, I suppose the soundtrack to the restaurant is. I've always kind of tried to find a balance of things which aren't necessarily. Songs that you kind of, like Brothers on the Slide is kind of a classic. I mean, that's on loads of kind of funk compilations. And, boom, boom, boom. Everyone kind of knows that sort of guitar riff. But then you wouldn't know about Simandy, or you wouldn't, but everyone nods their head, and it's got a melody that's recognizable but isn't necessarily obvious.
We're taking over the meal. So I want to get back a little bit to North Festival. And now in its 3rd year.
Correct.
So you got the first year out of the way. What was the first year like?
Stressful?
It was pretty stressful, yes. And we had no idea how to do it, or how it would work, if people would like it or not. So just getting through it was, I think, the main goal. And we were, after a couple of months of sleep, we were ready to do it again. And then we decided after the second time that, hey, let's do it a third time. So
that's great. I mean, I think the third time is when it really starts to coalesce, because the first year you're like, you always got to do it once. There's always going to be a first one. And no matter what it is, sometimes you just got to go out and do it.
Yeah, I agree. And now, I mean, we've done millions of small and big mistakes over the first couple of times, and we're doing mistakes still. But we've learned a lot, and we've kind of figured out a couple of things that we think that the experience of Nordic food should be like.
What was the biggest mistake, and how early did you realize, like, oh, we shouldn't have done it this way?
I think actually last year was fantastic in many ways, but the biggest mistake we made was that we simply had too many locations going at the same time.
Yeah.
We had 4 locations going at the same time, and we were essentially, the event staff was like 10 people. So it was impossible to do it, and we realized that when we were standing in the middle of it. So this year we're actually doing everything in one location, which is great.
I think that's great. So for those who've never been, what is the whole ethos? What is the whole vibe? Do you have to be Nordic to cook there?
No, you don't have to. No,
it's definitely encouraged.
It's
definitely
encouraged. We will speak about Nordic things, and there will be Swedish and Danish and Finnish and Icelandic spoken at the festival. But no, I mean, the ethos is come, have fun. Try some great food. If you've tried it before and you're a super hardcore foodie that have traveled in the Nordic region and been to all the cool restaurants, we're going to have something for you. If you want to take kind of a more of an academic approach to it, and you want to come listen to some great speakers, we have a whole day of talks with keynotes and panels. If you just want to come hang out and try some Danish hot dogs or Swedish crayfish or Finnish street food, there will be something for you as well. So and bring the kids by all means. So we're really trying to be. One of the things that I think is important about Nordic cuisine is, like, instead of fine dining, it's more of a kind of a fun dining approach, and that's one of the things that we're trying to convey, I think.
That's great. Now, how do you go about selecting who gets to cook? Are there people who are obviously grandfathered in? But then how do you go out and build upon the new roster?
We try to, Matt's has been part of it every year, and like the local chefs that are so important to this movement here in New York, they're obviously always invited back in if they have time and energy. This is, obviously a busy period of the year for all the chefs, but we try to bring new chefs in from the Nordic countries every year. So instead of having repeat visitors, we're trying to find someone new, maybe do something that's a little unexpected, not just have the coolest names or the youngest names or the oldest names, but just try to bring a different type of chef in every time. Some that might come from a very traditional fine dining type restaurant, some that might come from just the street food movements. So it's we don't really have a set of rules for who we bring in. It's just we try to bring new things in. And the other thing is also there are a couple of names that are like really strong, big international names, but then they have all that attention already. They don't need more of that. So we're trying to bring in people who do not have all that attention.
Who are the new stars of the Nordic cuisine? And I know obviously I'll rank them because I no one cares about what I say. But obviously, Copenhagen, Denmark sort of sitting at the most popular, then sort of Sweden, but then you have Iceland and Finland and things like that, with the kids coming up from behind, as they say, like what's going on, and are there new faces in Finnish cuisine, are there new faces in Icelandic cuisine that you need to be watching out for?
Well, I think in terms of Finnish cuisine is very interesting because it's kind of probably been the one that has been getting the least attention of all the Nordic countries. And
how does it differ compared to, let's say, Danish cuisine?
Well, what everyone has to understand is that the Nordic region is, although it's very small in population, it's pretty big in terms of geography.
Yeah.
So, Sweden itself is, Stockholm is as far from the very north of Sweden as it is from Rome. So, so there are like 4 climate zones just in Sweden. So I would say that the differences are more regional than national. Obviously, there are certain like grandma type dishes in each country that would be kind of more national, but it seems to be, or at least to me, that it's very regional. You're going to see there's a difference between the Danish East Coast and the Danish West Coast in the way they cook, and so I think that's interesting. But Finland obviously being interesting from the perspective that it has traditionally over the centuries maybe looked more towards the east than towards the west. Because it's been, Russia's had a huge influence on Finland and Finnish cuisine and just Finnish culture in general all the time. So they have, a lot of pierogies and types of food in their traditional cooking that comes from that influence. Whereas the rest of Scandinavia or the Nordic region maybe looks more towards the south for inspiration and actually also towards Britain and the U.S. obviously.
So who are the chefs that are coming? Who's the fresh faces, and from which part of the Nordic scene?
Well, so from Stockholm we have Fredrik Johnson and Peter Anderson coming from Volt, which I think is a really interesting restaurant. They've been at it for a couple of years, and they just got a Michelin star this year. Really interesting young guys with a very, very strong ethos and very kind of passionate about what they do. We have Trine Vigufsson. My Icelandic is not perfect, but Trine Vigufsson
is anybody?
I don't know. He works at the Blue Lagoon, which is obviously the biggest tourism attraction in Iceland. But they also have a very, very ambitious restaurant called Lava that he is heading up. I think that's really interesting. We have Richard McCormick, who is kind of the face of street food of all things in Finland, which is he's coming over and actually just doing street food for our Finland Day, and street food is blowing up as a topic all across the Nordic region, but eating in the streets have always been a very, very big part of even traditional cuisine.
Eating and drinking.
Eating and drinking. Yeah, exactly. Or drinking first and then eating in the streets. So I think that's we have Kari Ahinen, who comes from Helsinki as well, more coming from like classical background, but it's also interesting to bring in that kind of style into this. So I think there's a lot of interesting things, and then obviously we have our great local chefs that have been kind of the standard bearers for Nordic cuisine here in the city, which obviously Mats is hugely important.
Awesome. Tickets still available?
Tickets are still available for, I wouldn't say all of the events, but if you go to nordicfoodfestival.org, you're going to see all the events. And even if you don't want to buy a ticket for an event, we have our marketplace. It's on the corner of Charles and Washington in the West Village.
Nice.
It's open every day from 12 noon until 10 p.m. And you can just come hang out. You don't have to pay an entrance fee. If you want to have a beer, you buy a beer. If you want to have some crayfish, you buy that. But you can just come, hang out, and have fun. So you don't have to buy tickets for the experience.
What are the dates?
Good question. We start on the 23rd of September, and we go until the 28th. So it's...
That's nice. Yeah. It's a nice stretch.
It is, yeah.
Awesome. So I think one of the things that I've loved about living in New York, and also having the honor of like traipsing across the pond and things like that, is seeing how interconnected everything is becoming now with food. I mean, you were talking about during the break about how the British government is now having a partnership with the Mexican government and sending chefs back and forth, and you're starting to see that more and more, like real culinary ambassadors. And it's
Well, I think there's. In a way, there's kind of, we talked about it before, Mats and Justin talking about the, people doing a photo of people creating a dish off of an Instagram photo of something from, something Nordic. And I think, in a way, the internet's, been guilty of homogenizing things very quickly because everyone finds out everything immediately. But then the flip side of that is that you get to meet everybody, and I think definitely I've seen it. Even before we had our restaurant, I knew you guys, and that's you find out about Young Turks because of this, and we kind of met through music and food, and I think that's an amazing thing, and I think there's only positive things that come from that, from these different kind of collaborations and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I get that there's the stealing and appropriation of things, but I try and look at it as being like, wow, I was inspired by this dish that I would have never even seen or known about or even know how to get in touch with you. It used to be impossible to reach out to somebody and be like, hey, do you want to get something going? It's got a very I don't know, even more today, it's got more let's start a band type of mentality.
Well, I think another thing that you see that I certainly didn't see when I was in my 20s is you see young people saving their disposable income to travel and eat.
Yeah.
When I was 23, I just ate pizza.
Yeah.
And wine was something that was way out of my league. We just drank beer and bought records.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's if you look around at Roberta's or whatever, I mean, there is a young under 30 or even early 30s world of people that are like, we're going to go to London, we're going to hit these places, we're going to do that, and that didn't exist 20 years ago.
No.
Young people didn't do that. And I think that's really interesting with the festivals, like what you guys are doing, or things like the fooding, things like that. There's become this audience that's not just interested in the eating, but they're interested in the philosophy. They want to know where things come from. They want to have a personal relationship with the chefs. They want to be able to get the dish handed to them. It's a different world.
And also, I think this wonderful world of technology has really been one of the facilitators behind the explosion of Nordic cuisine, because it was created by a group of individuals that were chefs and also entrepreneurs, but it was not a government initiative. It came from people who really believed in an idea, and then they were able to connect with other people that had kind of roughly the same ideas around the country and then around the world, which is like Mad Food Camp in Copenhagen. Mm. When that happened, it was just a bunch of the most awesome chefs in the world came together at the initiative of a couple of individuals, which was amazing. And it was not a big sponsored event or anything like that. So I think,
but it feels big if, let's say, you follow chefs on Twitter or Instagram, and then all of a sudden the 30 or 40 chefs or food people you follow are all posting about the same thing, and you're just like, well, where's my invite? Where's my invite? Well, listen, I want to make sure that we have enough time for one more song and for you guys just to shout out. Why don't we just go around the room? Four Horsemen, how do people find out about it?
How do people find out about it?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, we're on Grand Street in Williamsburg. You can come by. That's cool. Our website's 4horsemanbk.
That's cool.
4horsemanbk.com. You can make a reservation, look at the menu, check out the wine list, and come see us.
What's your favorite wine in there right now?
Dude, I hate that question. The red one. I like the red wine. That's pretty good.
I'm sorry.
I like any wine that isn't allocated right now. I'm having a backlash against sommelier selected Instagram wines.
Yeah, okay.
So I want people to drink other stuff. There's plenty of great wine out there, and I think we've got to get over the fact that anything
fine.
that's limited is
Can I
special.
rephrase my question? What are you drinking right now?
What am I drinking right now? Last night I had a really awesome bottle of a wine called Red is Dead.
So the red wine.
Yeah, it was a great little wine from the southwest of France that shouldn't have been good, and it was just like in the most beautiful little spot, and I drinking with friends, and it was an awesome moment, and it's like a $16 bottle of wine.
That's the best.
It was great.
Acme?
So we are launching a new fall menu right now. The whole menu's just changed. The whole season is just starting again after Labor Day, so we're pretty packed there. 9 Great Jones Street in Manhattan, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. I mean, it's still fresh after all these years.
It's fun. It's a good place to go with friends and family and just sit and sharing all the food.
Or a date. You look like
a date, yeah. A date, of course.
That's a good way to get some action post.
It's a fun place, yeah.
Yeah. North?
Either go to NordicFoodFestival.org, buy tickets for some of the dinners, or just come by, corner of Washington and Charles, between the 23rd and the 28th.
Awesome. Clove Club?
Clove Club, yeah. We're into game season now, so if you're in London and you fancy a grouse, come and see us. It's delicious. They're not too high, as we say at the moment, so they're not too funky. But if you want to have some really, really funky game, then maybe leave it till end of the month, October.
All right. Speaking of funky game, you want to take us out with one more track?
Yeah. Seeing as we are in New York City, I will play something from New York City.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
We talk about food. We talk about music with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse. Snacky Tunes.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.